something very nice happened to me this week, and something very bad happened to another cartoonist this week. Oh, it wasn't very bad, but I mean, it wasn't that bad at all, but I think it's interesting to talk about both of them. One, because I get to aggrandize myself. I get, look at the nice thing that happened to me. But then, you know, I can reflect at this nice thing that happened to me, because at the beginning of the year, sort of the opposite thing happened, which I will then use to segue to talk about the thing that happened to another cartoonist, another cartoon person this week on Twitter. Like anyone can. I'm rehashing drama. That's right. This is going to be a drama episode. We're going to get it. Not really, but as you may have already guessed, the bad thing that I'm going to discuss is Joe Cat. It's not really bad. It's just sort of silly and embarrassing for, you know, or representative of just why, you know, why, you know, why did this have to happen? There's no reason any of this had to happen. And even me rehashing this subject, you know, after it's long dead, people don't want to hear about it anymore. People are fucking tired of fucking Joe Cat discourse. But I'm going to talk about it, not, you know, with any view to condemn or, you know, really discuss it, but just in terms of my views of, like, authorship. And I talk a lot about authorship. There was an episode I previously did that good old Rory Blank guest starred on, called Birth of the Author, where I was talking to him about him doing the drawing that got a lot of traction for popularizing the phrase Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer, and how that drawing just sort of got away from him and he lost authorship of it. And yeah, the worst part of it being, of course, when, you know, the weird t-shirt bots start putting it on a t-shirt without your permission. You know, that's something that he was experiencing. That's obviously sort of a horrible effect of that. But you know, at some point you just sort of, it became part of the wind, you know. Eventually there's a weird thing that happens where it's almost not yours anymore. I can't remember. I don't think Rory says that particularly in the episode. Go back and listen to it. He's always great. I love him so much. But I was always wondering, as if I keep doing this, will something like that ever happen to me? Will I get like a "This is fine, dog," like a Casey Green "This is fine, dog" moment? And I don't know if that happened to that extent, but something that I did became very repeated. It became a meme. People kept redrawing it. It's of course the "I think we're going to have to kill this guy" Steven meme, the one in which that's derived from the comic in which Steven Universe meets Hitler. And then at first, you know, it's the joke, oh, Steven Universe would forgive Hitler. And he says, what if you could change your mind, Hitler? Hitler, of course, being Hitler, isn't, you know, he won't listen to reason. So Garnet has to remind Steven that you have to murder fascists. And then the panel that everyone enjoys, which I enjoyed at the time, I liked making, I thought it was funny, and it's very flattering. It's very affirming to think that other people think this gag is funny, where, you know, you just have to, someone reminds someone, you know, doesn't always work out, kid, yeah, where you can't always, sometimes, you know, you're going to have to kill this guy, Steve. And sort of the sadness, the resignation you feel at experiencing the harsh truths of the world, you know, and this has, but I think something about that panel has resonated because it's evokes a character dynamic where a more experienced character is sort of, sadly telling the more naive character about the horrors of the world, or just, you know, sort of comforting through this realization that the world is not as nothing. You can't solve everything through reason alone, or through, you know. I don't know what it is. But someone, I forget their name. I should look who this person is, because I want to thank them. They made my life significantly better, because it was nice that everyone was it was nice that everyone was talking about this weird joke that I made. With, and they weren't talking about me. I think that's what was nice about it, and why I wanted to talk about the feeling that, like, the joke of, I think we're gonna have to kill this guy, Steven. Damn. The fact that, like, some people knew that I made it, and people absolutely credited me in the thread. They went out of their way, and I thanked them. But it doesn't matter, because, the thing that I did from the beginning, I don't sign my work. I leave it sort of vague, as if it has, come out of the ether and come out of nowhere. It's sort of intended to be seen as sort of authorless. That was all part of my dastardly plan to begin with, because and even just the fact that it's a crude drawing means that you can project yourself onto it. So there was, I didn't calculate it, and it's definitely not for that comic. I didn't expect that one to be the one, but there is, like, some element of, like, I sort of, I like that, where the thing that you made, even though you made it, it sort of, it becomes just part of the ether. It doesn't, I've lost control over it. There's nothing that I can do. I'm the originator of it, but really it's become so much more in the hands of everyone else that it barely matters that I'm the one that created it to begin with. It's like a joke that has gone back to the air. And it's very flattering, in a way, to serve as the conduit for that joke, because then, a funny thing happens where people are like, they know the meme, but they're like, where the fuck does the meme come from? And then they discover it. It's like, oh, this guy who I know from this other thing that's sort of tangentially weird, and they make that journey of discovery, and then they discover my backlog of thousands of comics, and they're like, wow, there's a fucking lot of these, and that's the gag, that's the whole plan. That was the plan. It's working. It worked somehow with this goddamn Steven Universe comic. I guess I have, also the thing where, like, t-shirt bots might steal it. That's less, I wasn't gonna put that on a t-shirt anyway, because they're not my characters. It's like a parody comic. I wouldn't try and make, like, I don't know what the legal rules are that to, like, print other people's characters on a t-shirt. I'm not going to even get a test on. I'm not going to test that. But, I wouldn't have tried to capitalize on that piece of art anyway. So, have at it, t-shirt bots. I dare you. You get sued by Comedy Central for using my work. Not Cartoon Network. Steven's on Cartoon? Yeah, Cartoon Network. So, yeah, the joke got... So the thread by this person... who is this person? I'm looking it up right now. I don't know. It's evolved beyond. So Gateway 21, G4T-Way 31, Lula. Thank you, Lula. I really appreciate you starting the thread that got the ball rolling on this trend of drawing your two comfort characters, one more experienced and one more naive, in the place of the... there have been all sorts of variations of this. There's one with, like, Michael Corleone and Bluey I saw, which was very, very funny. I like that one. I don't know why. All these people have comfort characters as well. That they imagine together, and they imagine having this relationship of sudden cognizance of a sudden a harsh life lesson is learned between these two. It struck a chord in people. I don't know what it is, and it's nice to have that happen, and it's nice for it to just have reached total escape velocity, where it's just not mine. it's over, baby. This joke. It's beyond me now, And if I'm being honest, that's really something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to create something that becomes so ubiquitous that the fact I created it just doesn't matter anymore. That is sort of like, I know that's sort of a weird life goal to have, but that is, I don't know, it does feel like something that I set out to do, and weirdly and circuitously, it happened. And I was very happy with that one because I like that joke a lot. So I'm glad other people liked it too. And I talk about this sense of losing authorship because I've noticed there's been a very strong trend in the idea of retaining authorship, or the idea of, authorship being of primary importance, something that I, especially like in recent work by, the old big YouTubers. I even last year, I did a whole podcast on that Kevin Perjurer video about trying to find the Disney Channel theme song thing, because I found it fascinating, because I found there was sort of like I liked the video. You can listen to that podcast. My main thing was I like the video and I think it's a good documentary and all that, but there is sort of this undercurrent of like, there's one portion of it where they're talking about like, oh, this is all calculated. They just like straight up look into the camera and say, oh no, this was all for selling fucking lunchboxes to kids. And like the Kevin Perjurer himself says, oh, that's a little sinister. And they laugh it off, and then they just move on with this whole thing. I was like, wait a second, you talk about this whole, thing about authorship, but you uncovered, this sinister undercurrent to it, which is like, I don't know, maybe the authorship is tainted by the sinister undercurrent. Maybe, maybe it is, and I think alongside that were H. Bomber Guy videos. Great videos about the Roblox oof. And recently, new ones about plagiarism, about the James Somerton plagiarism. And PhilosophyTube released a video about how she got plagiarized as well. And so there have been these, completely valid and absolutely, very necessary. And I think all of these examples I've named are like very... they're good pieces of work. I'm not denigrating it, but as a result, there's been this, and if I were to theorize, why there is so much talk, or why the theme of wanting to retain authorship over your work comes up and again, of course, is because so much of your shit just gets stolen nowadays. It's just expected, if you're a creative person, that you sort of just work for free and you expect your stuff to get stolen. That's inherent to my style. The fact that I don't sign stuff, and the fact that I've subconsciously memified it to begin with in this, when you think about, and sometimes when I think about it, it was halfway a conscious thing. But now that I think about doing it consciously, maybe it sounds craven almost. Maybe I've devoted myself to that ethos as some sort of authorless thing, but rather it's just another way for people to discover the great ego void that is me. It's all back to me in the end. It is pretending that I am humble by submitting authorship to the wind, but really. No, I am in fact trying to just do a more circuitous method of adulating my ego. It could be that. I have no idea. But it sort of felt right for me. It's sort of the idea of like, becoming the wind. You always want to become the wind, right? Maybe this is not a desire that other people have. But in my case, I like the idea of some idea that I have, or some physical part of me being expressed and then materializing and drifting and turning into paper and affecting 1,000 little people who just don't even know where it comes from. That's a thrilling concept to me, frankly. And so which is the opposite of like wanting to retain authorship. The thing that has given me the most joy, counter to these examples of people. Obviously, like, being plagiarized is terrible. And it's fucked up. And, these examples of losing authorship are really negative. But it's weird. The example that I've had most recently of losing authorship is really positive. It's very much this experience where I feel like an idea that I've had has actually I've affected the world around me, albeit in a really stupid way. It's like a really dumb joke, but it feels like people got joy out of it, and it just kept spontaneously generating more joy as people did it, and it sort of kinetic energy thing, absent my presence. It was this thing that kept going without me being there, and I don't know, that's really nice. The fact that you did something that without your maintenance managed to affect a lot of people positively in a very small way, but that's good. And that feeling could not have been accomplished if I had, been constantly trying to assert authorship over it, or if it'd be really funny if I was like mad about it and be like, this is my work and you can't copy it. And I thought of, like, who would have that response to something like that? But and I guess it's different because, I mean, one, the original work is a parody as well, so I already feel like I didn't, retain much of my own. And it's a parody based off of, like, a very well-worn joke about Steven Universe as well. And I guess the other part is, like, nobody's trying to make money off of that work as well. At least not yet. I'm sure... I wonder if it will get to the point of popularity where bots will start taking advantage of it. Let's hope. That's how I know I'll have made it. If I start seeing I think we're gonna have to kill this guy Steven t-shirts in public. I don't know. Rebecca Sugar, if you want to make I think we're gonna kill this guy Steven t-shirts, you have my blessing. I will give that design to you for free. You can have it if you can convince Cartoon Network merchandise to make. I think we're gonna kill this guy. I think we're gonna have to kill this guy's Steven t-shirts. Yeah, and it's obviously a much more different feeling because nobody's trying to, like, profit off of your hard work. There's in fact, your hard work has paid sort of spiritual dividends in a lot of in a lot of ways. I'm aggrandizing it to more than it is, but it really, I gotta be honest with you folks, it really felt fucking good. It's it really felt fucking validating that, oh, this joke I wrote, everyone liked it and it made people happy, and that's sort of why you're in it, right? And I hope to be able to do more of those. I hope maybe not exclusively live my life trying to generate memes, because that way lies madness. But trying. There is something wonderful about creating something that has some sort of universal affection. That is why I always find the stories of people like Marcus Notch Person, or J.K. Rowling so fascinating. People who manage to create something that is absolutely universally beloved. It belongs to the air. I'm not saying that I did. I'm not saying I did something to the level of the recognition of those. I'm aggrandizing myself too much. But it was a thing that it felt like that in a way, where I've created something that just got away from me to a very large extent. I think the interesting thing about these people is that, in a way, just through their shitty opinions, through their terrible political views, and through their need to sort of bandy them about in a public space, they end up reasserting authorship on these things. They end up taking it away from the air. I mean, not Minecraft. You know, Notch couldn't say enough shitty stuff to take Minecraft, you know, to make Minecraft, you know, uncool or problematic. That thing, you know, that really got away from him. That really became the air. You know, there's nothing that he can do. It's like that became famous on like a Michael Jackson level. You know, there's nothing he can do that will get rid of the fact that that's just part of life, you know. Michael Jackson's music, Minecraft, nothing the creators of that can do to really yank that back from the air. I mean, that's what's even more amazing about J.K. Rowling is that she was able to yank her creation back from the air and back into her hands. Now we permanently associate Harry Potter not as this sort of generic epochal work of monomyth that it was before she started saying turf stuff, but rather this sort of bland, negative, politically backwards tome written by a jerk. You know, she managed to wrest away the eternity of her work by just having to reassert authorship in the worst way imaginable. So yeah, there is a bad way to assert authorship as well, which I think is interesting. That's sort of, or there's a way that you can sort of regress your work by asserting the wrong kind of authorship, which I think is interesting. And I don't know if it fully applies to the whole goddamn Joe Cat situation. Why am I talking about this? No one should hear about this. No one cares about it. But I think it's interesting. Because something similar happened to me. I guess I'll start with the similar thing that happened to me. People who've been longtime listeners, longtime House of Decline followers know at the beginning of this year, I did a cartoon with my buddy Steve. And I think we're going to have to kill this guy, Steve, we said. And we made a cartoon about a sad little character called, he's not called anything. He's just generic, and it's You Are Not Special. And it just, you know, you're saying this to the sad little guy. You are not special. You're not good at anything. Life is meaningful. It's filled with meaning. There are people who are good at stuff, but you're not, and that's it. You know, it's nothing. You're going to die. You know, and it's... people hated it. It got like this incredible amount of negative response. Which is why, you know, also partially why I was so chuffed about the positive response to this Steven Universe, to this I think we're going to have to kill this guy Steven thing, right at the end of the year. Because right at the beginning of the year, I got 20,000 quote tweets of people calling me a bastard. That was sort of aggravating. And it was interesting. Steve handled it much better than me because he thought it was funny, in a way. I was freaking out because I still do, and before that, I had sort of staked my reputation or my online persona or whatever the hell I'm doing right now. That's a mishmash between sort of my real personality and some sort of projected entertainment persona. But you know, that had sort of gravitated because I'm a nice guy. I say nice. I'm a bit wholesome. I'm a bit edgy, but I'm a bit wholesome too, which sounds like the fucking gayest thing ever. You know, you people are right to be annoyed by me if that's the thing that I'm projecting. But that's the bet, and that's the bet I made, and I was going for it, and it also cultivated an audience of people, you know, that would be cultivated, that would be amenable to that idea of it's a little edgy, but it's a little wholesome. That super gay idea. So a lot of Tumblr refugees. I love you, Tumblr refugees. We're in this together. We have many of the same sensibilities. So I also saw a lot of these people very disappointed with that You Are Not Special comic. And it's also the reason why, like, I apologized after there was that extreme negative response to it, because to some degree I consciously cultivated the audience that had a negative response to it. So I did feel, you know, some sort of, well, you know, this part of my audience, I don't hate you. I get why you didn't like it. I'm sorry, and there's no use in like apologizing to the crowd. Some people, it will be never enough for some people, but it wasn't really. I sort of wanted to do it because I felt vaguely responsible in a way. Not that I think it was that. I mean, it was also easy to do because I just didn't think what I did was that hard. The joke wasn't. So I should clarify. There were some people that didn't like the joke because it was corny. They just thought it was, like, go back to Reddit, man. This is like Reddit stuff. And it's like, okay, that's fair. But then there was like a whole other, like, and the way more people too, like saying that, this is nihilism. Like there was this whole like debate about, like people were talking about nihilism. They were like really angry at me for like being so negative, or like they were posting the Smiling Friends, Frowning Friends episode a lot at me because they beat up a bunch of like negative, annoyingly negative people. In that Smiling Friends episode, they talk about how annoyingly negative people they suck, and so people were posting that at me. And it's okay, but they were also accompanying with it like, you are doing moral damage to the world, and it was like, oh, that's a little unfair, But I don't know why it so deeply affected people in that way. I like to think it's because they related to the character. I made the character too cute, and they related to it, and they saw themselves in it, which is why. And I do think it's a common affliction of people thinking that they're deeply unspecial, and that sort of drives a lot of psychosis. So I think I also may have, this. I mean, by evidence of the critical drubbing it received by a lot of young people, I can see this is something that seems to be a sensitive topic, of the idea of dealing with your lack of maybe uniqueness or idiosyncrasy, especially in an age like the internet when you are really forced, outright to deal with your lack of idiosyncrasy. You can think of any joke, you can think of a pun, and you write it into Twitter. Oh, I wonder if someone's, especially a pun, because everyone's thought of every pun before. You think of a pun as like, this is the funny, like today I did a thing of Rothko, and I thought, haha, Porco Rothko. like the Miyazaki film, but also the artist. Porco Rothko. I bet no one's thought of that before. I'm so clever. I type in Porco Rothko, and there's like a couple of posts where somebody has written Porco Rothko, and I'm like, great. I'm not original. No one is original. I mean, that's also like a really fucked up thing about like trying to assert authorship on Twitter, because anything that you think about, like a lot of jokes you think of, like you have this instant repository of people who are just coming up with fucking puns and little jokes for free. And you can go mad trying to like think of a joke, and then you try and Google it to see if somebody has done it before, and then it's like, well, I guess I'm in the clear. But I don't know. It's fucking yeah. I think that's something that I worry about too. Is that like I do a joke that's already been done before, and then somebody accuses me of plagiarism or something like that. I've done jokes that were definitely, because that's the thing. I did like 1,400 fucking comics in 2 years. I did too many. And I was bound to like, when you're thinking of these tiny little gag things, I would repeat stuff before. I did one where it was a fella who he had a barrel on. He was the classic cartoon gag of he's impoverished, so he's wearing a barrel, and then he has a lottery ticket and he wins the lottery, and he says, oh my god, I can finally afford to get out of this barrel, this poverty barrel. And then in the next panel you see him wearing a gold barrel. And he liked wearing barrels. It was just the relative quality of the barrel that was holding him back. All he needed was money. And then good friend Chris Wilson, good friend of the show, I love it, from Cyanide and Happiness. Turns out there had been a Cyanide and Happiness joke where a guy's living in a box and he wins the lottery and then he gets a gold box. And it's, fuck! And he posted it under my thing. I was like, and I don't know. I feel like in this heightened like era of people sensitive about plagiarism, I fear that people will take those. I mean, that's why I've done, like, on the Patreon now, I'm just doing like long form stuff, and why I'm doing other long form stuff, because I caught myself doing that. I caught myself plagiarizing myself, where like doing jokes that I had already done before. And I had mentioned this on last podcast, on the Burnout podcast. But yeah, there was a joke of like Hot Ones interrogation room. And then I realized months before I had done Nardwar interrogation room. And it was the exact same joke. I had copied myself, so at some point I did too much, and you need to slow down. I think that's also the lesson. If you feel pressured to overproduce, that's not good. You need to take your time with stuff. So, you can come up with more unique or specific jokes. Sometimes you come up with a joke and that somebody has not done it before. You absolutely are certain that this is what only with the joke that I've come up with that I was just totally absolutely certain. Well, no one has done this joke before. Is a person, he takes their, I had done, actually that's not true. I had done a version of this joke, a plagiarized version I plagiarized myself again, but I reiterated the joke and did it slightly better, where no one had done this version of it before. I'd done a version where a guy, his pubes are so long that he does a comb over with the pubes. He's got long hair, but then he takes off his hoodie and it's his pubes. But then I did one where a guy grows his pubes so long that he tucks it beneath his taint and then puts it into a long ponytail coming out of his ass, and then looks at it proudly and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Ariana Grande." And that was when I drew it. I was like, well, no one's ever done this before. This is new. I have created something new here. For sure. And I'm not saying that's a good joke. I'm just saying sometimes you need to spend the time to come up with things that you have more certainty are original and more endemic to your specific brain. And when you overproduce, I think you tend to rely on stuff that is maybe more generic. Not saying the Cyanide and Happiness joke was generic, but I'm just saying it's or I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Sometimes you're just, in gag comics especially, you're just going to do jokes that have been done before, which is what I was starting to find crushing about it. And what I was, fearful about, I started getting like, when all that plagiarism stuff was going on, are people going to dig up receipts? Have I done it conscious? Am I a plagiarist? I started worrying about that shit. I don't think I've done plagiarism, but as far as I know, there's someone compiling receipts on me right now. Yeah, in terms of plagiarism sort of informing, and why I think there's this sort of heightened mood around plagiarism and authorship, it informed the drama of the week, the old drama of the week on Twitter, where an account at Zero Suit Camus, wonderful account. I love her podcasts. The Movie Mindset, Seeking Derangements, Hesse, very funny. She posted a video by a guy named Joe Cat, who I'd never heard of up to that point, and I had never seen this video before. And she made a very standard Twitter joke, which was, "I made this." The joke being, of course, the video, I don't think the video is very good, so it's ridiculous for me to take credit for this. Right? You know, I made this, but it would be embarrassing if I had made this. The video is this from what I gather, he's some sort of Twitch streamer / animator, and he animates funny moments from his Twitch stream, and this one involved him saying, "Oh, I don't just like strong girls, even though I make jokes about that all the time. Instead, I like," and then it launches into a parody of Lizzo's Boys, but instead it's girls, and then he's talking about all the, I like smart girls and tiny girls and big girls and abs girls and fat girls, you know, and the people, as he's saying these various body types of women, various pop culture women characters representative of these body types are flashing in the background, and he's being playfully sexual. He's being playfully sexual for his audience of people that are also amenable to eroticizing cartoons. You know, I can't say boo about eroticizing cartoons. You know, you know, that's my whole deal. So it's like, you know, I'm not judging the guy on that, but I feel like, especially, you know, as someone who's into that world, who's got one foot into the sort of like anime, like I think cartoons are how, you know, you have to have a little self-awareness. You have to understand why people like think it's weird. You know, I'm not judging you for it. I think it's fine. You know, I'm no better. But you need to get outside of yourself sometimes and understand why people might think this is a little questionable. Not saying these people are oversensitive and wanting to defend, you know, the love of the cartoon love so much, but it's just, you know, you gotta maybe have a little sense of humor. A little more sense of humor about like your fetishization of cartoons, you know. maybe it is goofy and worthy of mockery. have you ever considered that? But that wasn't even the problem. You know, I guess people were overly mean to. I don't know. I couldn't get. This isn't even the timeline. So. And I can't say it is for certain, but I think because of this heightened air around plagiarism, because of these two very popular and successful YouTube videos about plagiarism, where the creators delineate this horrible thing that happens, and they, you know, they did a good job of it. But now, like, everyone suddenly becomes plagiarism detective. You know, everyone is now in the mindset of plagiarism detective. So they saw the tweet by @ZeroSuitCamo, and they thought she was being serious. They thought she was genuinely taking credit for it, which is funny because, you know, the watermark of the original creator, Joe Cat, is in the video itself. But they couldn't. Some people can't parse stuff. But you know, people were commenting on it. They were like getting mad at her a little, and then Joe Cat himself, maybe confused. I don't know if it was. Some people have accused him of clout sharking. I don't know. Whatever. I don't have no. God, why am I commenting on this? Why am I doing a drama podcast? Because it's interesting to me. Damn it. I'm a craven asshole. I rant against craven assholes, but I'm one of you. You know, I'm a fucking craven asshole as well. This drama can you believe the drama that happened? But yeah, so they this like mass misinterpretation of a joke. People thinking they're doing the right thing by taking down another one of these goddamn internet plagiarists. And Joe Cat, the creator, commented on it saying, you know, I made this, don't take credit for it. But then it suddenly became, they realized, oh, they're making fun of us. And sort of it erupted into this factional war between the people making fun of the the anime like people, and well, no, I guess they're not the anime, but you know the the joke, the joke at people. The people took massive factions. This war, no, it was nothing like that. But people got very mad at each other, and it feels like it escalated to the point where this joke at fella said that he was quitting creating stuff forever, because I suppose this is the third time this video has come up as a source of mockery on Twitter. And he said he got a suspicious package mailed to his house, but then it turns out that, that actually happened from one of the other times the video got. So it was all sort of like became a weird mess. It just, all you need to know about it is that this very weird, tiny misunderstanding got out of hand, and people were talking about, you bullied a nice guy off of the internet. People got very stressed out over this nothing thing, but I felt like I wanted to give advice to Joe Cat. I felt like, man, this would have been the perfect time to not assert authorship. Sometimes this is the time to not assert authorship over something. You have to know when. You have to know when, as a creator in the internet age. You have to know when is the... sometimes you need to stand your ground and say, I made this. Sometimes, the fact that it's just being discussed... that old phrase, no press is bad press. In Joe Cat's case, I think that was true. All it proved to me is that, man, this cartoon cat guy, he's got shooters. People are fucking ride or die for this Joe Cat motherfucker. It's like, what do I need to do to inspire such loyalty in my fandom that they're willing to go ape shit on people for a joke that they didn't understand. Or maybe they did understand it, but they didn't like that this person was being derisive. They didn't like that, whatever. It's so fucking stupid. I think that's why I'm fixated on it, because it's just like, in my head, it's like Hall of the Mountain King is playing in the background, right? Dun 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 dun, and it just keeps escalating and escalating, where you get the flame war, and it all ends with this guy doing this big post about quitting. It's not. I read the thing because he's freaked out, and in a way I related to it, because I understand what it's like to get 20,000 quote tweets of hate most intimately. I don't know. I only got a couple death threats out of it, and they're the classic KYS or you should you fucking ass, but I didn't take them seriously because I could see all the people sending me the death threats were very young people, and it's like, oh, that's what I did when I was like 18, said it was 17, or they're just following in my tradition, no harm here. So I wasn't that freaked out by that, but I don't know if people were more serious to this joke at fella. Either way, it's like, man, I get like feeling that upset and like flailing in your response, because like when that shit happened and when people got mad at my thing, I was like flailing in responses and like coming up with a bunch of stupid like bullshit excuses. You didn't get the what, I should have stood my ground. The real answer is you gotta stood your ground and be like, I like this is cool to me, and that's the real answer to how to deal with someone, is just you gotta double down on your own thing. You can never apologize. You can't be mealy-mouthed about it. You must embrace your identity strongly and confidently. But evidently this guy was super distressed about it, as I was, because I'm not that person. I'm not that particularly confident person. I'm sort of, I think the reason I want to say that I only do work for me, but really, if I'm being honest, I love having an audience and bouncing it off my audience, and when I have displeased my audience, I'm like, oh no, I'm sad. The people have disliked me, and I know that's psychotic, but that is the curse That is the curse that I live with. So yeah, I feel like I want to give a pamphlet. I wanted to make a pamphlet with my "You Are Not Special" guy and say, so people hated your cartoon, and give it to this Joe Cat fella because he was making some mistakes that I made that I wish that I hadn't done when I had something that was receiving a lot of negative attention. You just got to be silent and be like humble about it and be like, well, I guess people didn't like that one. They may have even had a right to not like that one. And I read in his response of like, well, I shared it to my audience and they loved it, and then it escaped my audience. But here's the thing about like here's the thing about when you receive hate, or sometimes, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the criticism of the You Are Not Special. I liked You Are Not Special. I thought it was, funny enough to illustrate, and I did, and I liked it, and I still like it. I stand by it, even though I guess I apologized for it. But that was, that's what happens. I was flailing, I don't know. I've never received this. I've never had this many people call me shitty before. What do I do? I don't know what to do. And now that I look back on it, nothing happened. It's just a bunch of, obviously it's silly. It's stupid. It was just it was like a topic for a week for people to get their takes in on. And then as long as you keep producing and keep doing quality work, people will forget about it. But that sort of requires you to like double down on your sense of confidence after you've just had a huge shot to it. So it can be difficult to do sometimes. The Joe Cat video, I don't like the video, but it's not my thing. Like you said, there's like a huge audience that like loves that stuff and goes apeshit over that stuff. Why do you care what other people think when you have, the like-minded, cartoon people to share your sort of PG fetishism with? Why do you care what like these Twitter assholes are saying? And of course I understand why, because it's like they're saying mean things about me, but I'm so nice. How can they do it? Which is, and I don't know the extent of it. Maybe people were getting real raw with Joe Cat. Maybe people were posting his IP addresses. Maybe he got doxxed, or he got doxxed from like a previous one or something like that. Who knows? There was like an article in PC Gamer about, when bullying goes wrong, and they interviewed Joe Cat about internet bullying. And I don't know. We'll see if it happens to me again. We'll see if I'm able to withstand it again, because apparently this happened to this guy before, and I'm sure it grates on you. But I don't know if that experience, it didn't make me tougher. It just sort of made me afraid that I would say the wrong thing again. So I sort of can understand that. But yeah, a lot of fans are really agitated, or they're trying to give some sort of moral certitude to the actions of these avatars. I mean, that's, that what's fucked up about this whole goddamn creator economy is, and why I think people invest a lot of their faith in these individuals who appear to have cut through the noise and carved out a precious niche for themselves in the all too rarefied air of media or information. It's like me. It's like what I'm doing right now by engaging in this vaguely parasocial, illusion of intimacy, a monologuing podcast. It's the idea that I have some sort of measure of confidence, when really I don't. I just, I've trained myself to speak without thinking. That's really my major skill, is speaking without thinking, more than anything else. But so if you just have that, if you somehow are someone like me, and you've managed to carve out a weird niche for you in the media industry, which everyone is trying to do. Tons of people are enamored by the old media game, trying to get into it, trying to make podcasts or fucking content or whatever, because it's enticing, right? You get to be your own boss. You're doing creative work, you're expressing something, and people are responding to it. At the very best, you can have something happen like what happened to me this week, where people express this mass joy for a joke you made up with. A joke you made up. And it's it can be intoxicating. So if you see someone else doing that, you think, well, this person seems to know what they're doing. Joe Cat got famous by just sort of having some sort of confident style and projecting something that other people were feeling, but with like this very competent animation, and it developed an audience that way, and people thought, well, this person's obviously confident, I should listen to what they say. And it's the same for Zero Suit Camus. It's same for Hesse. She's very funny. She's got good taste in movies and shit. People like what she has to say, and people think that because she, some sort of mixture of skill and luck thrust this person into this rarefied air in the media sphere, and now people will then defend this person because they have a stake in enjoying this person. Because like when you interact with someone like me or any of these people in this sort of creator intimacy parasocial economy, the reason why it's sort of enjoyable is because you think, well, I could do that. This could be me one day. And, that was me with a lot of other podcasts as well. It's like I'm hanging out with this, but there's no reason why I couldn't do this. And it becomes sort of inspiring in a way, because not to say that I'm inspirational. And if you're inspired by this podcast, aim higher. But I think that is sort of the thrill you get when you follow these individuals in the so-called fucking creator economy. And that's why people will end up going so hard for them and creating these massive flame wars over them, because they just have so much stake in believing this person is, can do no wrong, or is worthy of protection, or, there's no humor that we can have about ourselves. Lord knows I'll do it too. I'll come in to defend my favorite creator, the creator, if somebody is being mean to them. I catch myself in that, dumbass instinct as well. It's like, why do they need me to defend them? What are we doing here? Why do we get obsessed with shit like this? I mean, I just gave my 2 cents. Why? But I don't know. I think that was ultimately what I thought of Joe. Man, if people were just a little less sensitive about authorship, or if people sort of had the same experience with authorship as I had just a couple of days earlier in that week, where the loss of it was actually amusing. If somehow the I made this video had been interpreted as like it belongs to the air now type thing, where instead of seeing it as this very mild barb towards it, instead of interpreting it as necessarily hostile, interpreting it as like, it's funny, this has exceeded its original intention. Maybe that was the way to see it instead. Maybe there is a type of authorlessness that is beautiful. I want to think, just as a corollary to the terrible types of authorlessness that we've been bombarded with recently. So I guess that was making a contrarian case for the joy of authorlessness as it happened to me this week, experientially this week. I think of course, you should always, call it fucking plagiarism. You should always, be attentive to that. And you should always, I don't know always, but, who has time? Who has time to, like, be analyzing all that shit? I think that's why James Somerton got away with it for so long, is because just no one was paying attention until someone noticed it and then had enough, a time and in order to really do enough research on it. That's what it takes. You need to be one of the biggest YouTubers in the world in order to effectively. He's not one of the biggest in the world. One of the biggest in his cohort, I should say. But who knows? Either way, Yeah, I think that I had a nice time this week. That was basically the whole point of this podcast. I did something happened that made me feel good. Really good, in fact. And that so rarely happens. No, that's not true. I'm not that much of a sad sack. Good things happen to me a lot, but this was nice. I hope if you do some creative work or you've pursued some creative work, this can happen to you, because it's a very good feeling. And I think the people that drew all those funny drawings really made my year. Frankly, it was a very nice note to go out on. So thank you everyone for listening, and take care. House of Decline is brought to you by Dat Ash, Kevin Ott, Dr. Spaceman Zero, Dr. Spachemin Zero? Might be Dr. Spachemin Zero. Connor Lane, Big Fan of Noise, Fiat Lux, Daniel Stern, Miles Forrester, Cher, Jessica Cohen, Height Concept, Liz Heckmayer, and Tor. Thank you for supporting the show.